This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, welcome to the world of tomorrow!
Hello everyone, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that has been frozen for hundreds of years and is now confused and slightly comedic.
Huh? Where am I?
I guess confused and trying to be funny describes a lot of our shows, so
Yes.
it works out. Yeah, I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Hizix.
Hi!
And this is it. We've made it through season 1.
Yes.
That's the thing.
So it's a season that I've heard some folks describe as a bit outdated, but it has its charm. To there's so many episodes that just keep making more when we're not looking. To, well, that was crap. And we got to the last episode of it, and it's one that has, I guess, mixed feelings about from various folks, but I find it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's up and down. This season's very up and down. This is another one of those ones that has two things that you sort of remember happening but don't remember happening in the same episode.
Yes. The only reason I, in my mind connect the two is because one scene they actually cross over for like a minute, and it's only slightly relevant.
Yeah, and the one that you think is going to be the A-plot is not.
Yes. It's like, oh yeah, there's this other thing happening that's kind of important, but we're going to focus over here.
Yeah, it's insane. This is the neutral zone, the final episode of the Next Generation season 1. It does end pretty well, given that, because we get to bring back one of the iconic villains. They're not really one of the big bads from original series because they only show up like twice.
Indeed,
but they are one of the more iconic bads from original series, and they very, very thankfully swoop in to replace the planned frickin' Ferengi main nemesis for the remainder of TNG.
Indeed. It's like, people might remember, it's like, oh yeah, there's, Picard faced off against Dateman Bach a couple times. But, usually when they think about the Enterprise D facing off against aliens, it's either the Borg or the Romulans. And, just kind of depending on, how much cybernetics you want to deal with. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of episodes where the Romulans end up being a main antagonist, and even just sort of a not quite a cooperating entity, but also there in like a couple episodes, and this one maybe counts for that one.
Yeah, they use the Romulans really well. We'll get into more as the seasons progress, because they don't do a lot with this one. They introduce them, and they're mostly just sort of there. But they do a really good thing with them for Next Generation, because Next Generation is the peacetime Star Trek.
Yes.
We're just out of the Cold War Star Trek. So having a antagonist that's not really an antagonist, you're sort of in a Cold War situation with them, but not really, and you're just sort of trying to figure each other out, but there's no real open hostilities. It's kind of the perfect thing to have for the main, like, quote-unquote villains of this era.
Indeed. And really only like maybe twice are they really kind of pushing for an outright confrontation with the Federation. And one of them is like, yeah, if our plan goes off, we have already won before they can do anything. So, oh well. And the other one is like, well, we're kind of just, trying to saber rattle here. We don't necessarily want a war, but we'll take it if the Federation wants to bring it, sort of things.
Yeah, and then anytime that they are, actively trying to be aggressive, it's blamed on one person. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, yes, don't worry, we've relieved them of command, yes.
So this one had an interesting development history. It came out in 1988, definitely written the year before, was made out of a piece of fan fiction.
Oh.
So the writers, Deborah McIntry and Mona Clee, they had this fan fiction thing, and it was turned into a teleplay by Maurice Hurley in a day and a half because he needed something to get in for the last episode before they hit the 1988 writer's strike.
So we got a little bit of a deadline. So you take this, put it through the filter, and it'll be good enough, right?
Yeah.
And surprisingly, it ended up not like most ridiculous episode ever. So
I mean, it's interesting. They had to take out some stuff that they were planning to put in, which is why there's like some allusions to stuff that shows up later. They were planning on this coming in first as like a two-parter, but the writing strike meant they couldn't write the other part.
Yes.
So they had to kind of cut off some things.
Well, you could always just do an end of season cliffhanger, but the producers hadn't figured that was a ratings grabber, so can't make a risk yet.
Well, like they wanted to do a cliffhanger thing, and they wanted to do a second part for the start of season 2, but because of the writer's strike coming in, they weren't able to write the other half of the episode.
Yes.
So they just had to cut anything that was going to be an allusion to the next episode and make this a standalone.
Well, you also think that when they do get to actually doing season-ending cliffhangers, that they don't just put off writing the second half, which they actually tend to do, both in TNG and Voyager. So I remember it was one of the Borg episodes on Voyager. The Borg Queen's like, "I'll be seeing you soon, Harry," and Harry's like, "What does that mean?" Ends up not mattering at all because they were just trying to foreshadow stuff they might want to do in the next half because they hadn't written it. They had no idea if they're going to do it. Anyway.
Yeah, well, they just kind of gave up on the writing for Voyager.
Yeah.
So.
Well, technically, they were in sort of a similar position with Best of Both Worlds, too. But anyway.
They never know how to write Borg.
Yes.
Constant problem. We got quite a few guest stars in this one, so may as well do a quick run through.
Mm-hmm.
We have Mark Alemo, who's playing Tibau, or Tabau, I forget how they pronounced it. The main Romulan dude.
Well, there was Damon Bach, so Tibok might be a little too on the nose.
So he's playing Tabak, and we all remember him. He's a very well-known Star Trek actor as the dog guy in Lonely Among Us.
Yes, that is his most famous Star Trek role ever. Believe us.
He played some kind of Cardassian on DS9.
Yeah,
that was way later.
Yeah, some recurring role or something like that. The guy who's playing there is a real asshole, so don't worry about it.
I mean, this is of course continuing his trend of somehow being the first appearance of every alien in Next Generation.
Yes. He'll continue it later too. Oddly enough, with the Cardassians. So.
Yeah, he plays this Romulan. Later plays another Cardassian. Then, of course, Gul Dukat, DS9.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just do the in-jokes and assume everyone knows what I'm talking about. I have to actually say it eventually. Next, Anthony James plays Thai. I don't think they really say his name much. I hate reading these after the fact, these names, my God.
Yes.
Anyway, he had a lot of guest star roles. He was on Hawaii Five-0, Bonanza, Gunsmoke, Buck Rogers, all that stuff. He was also in several movies. He had a major role He had a main role in the movie Heat of the Night, which got an Academy Award for Best Picture. I've never heard of it, but it won things. So
yes.
It's notable.
I've mostly heard of it because it won Best Picture. He was in V.
Then we got some comedy people coming in. These are the people you probably don't remember as well from the episode.
Yes.
Leon Rippey plays LQ Sonny Clemens. He's
Indeed.
a very well-known character actor. He's been on a lot of shows like Leverage, Deadwood. He's best known for playing Earl the Angel on Saving Grace, which is another one I haven't heard of, but apparently that's one of his more famous appearances.
Yes. Been in stuff since the early 80s, looks like, and including something called Hyperspace. Also, his appearance on Leverage, I actually watched some of the episodes he was in recently, so it was like, wait a moment, I recognize that face.
Yeah, he's fairly recognizable. Leverage is good.
Yeah, he was in Stargate, too.
Oh, everyone was in Stargate. Anyone who's been on Star Trek is in Stargate. Weird. I don't know why.
Well, there's, I guess, so many actors that are cool with doing sci-fi, I guess.
Gracie Harrison is playing Claire Raymond. She is less well known. She's appeared in a few things like Hill Street Blues and Family Ties. She doesn't have as long a career as some of the other ones.
Designing women. Spock's the Prince of Passion. I'm a little concerned with what that one's about.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great. Then Peter Mark Richmond is playing Ralph Alphenhaus. He was a regular on TV shows in the 50s, and his filmography includes 30 movies and 130 TV shows, so summarizing this is not happening.
All right, so, he was also in the FBI, by the way. But yeah, he's basically been in everything since, like, I don't know, like the early 50s, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's unfortunately passed away at this point, but he had a pretty good run, and salute you, and maybe we'll have you come back when we finally get around to Batman the Animated Series, and you'll be playing Charles Baxter.
I mean, he was working into his 80s, so
yes.
He had a pretty good career going. That's all the guest stars,
yes.
And the weird writing situation. And that's why stuff is strange in this episode, even though I think it held up pretty well. I like it.
Yes, a episode that had things going against it, but, managed to kind of pull it through, I suppose.
So,
in the beginning.
The Enterprise, we join, just sort of hanging out, because they're waiting for Picard to get back from an emergency conference.
Yes.
And
because remember,
while they wait...
Remember last time he was on Earth, and, the whole bunch of admirals got taken over, and they might be dead or something like that now. And other random people around the Federation might be going like, oh no, we just recovered from a brain parasite, and we're now in a dangerous security situation. So it's obviously about that, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they would not mention something like that again. So while they're waiting, they found an ancient space capsule that appears to have arrived here from Earth at some point, which is interesting. They're pretty far out. If they leave it, it's just going to continue on, get ripped apart by a binary star. Riker doesn't really care because it's only historical junk, so, leave it.
It's like, wasn't it just, the previous century you guys were all like, stuff from this era is like really, important to look at because we don't know very much about what was going on in the 90s.
Data wants to beam over and look at it. And Riker's like, your waste of time, sure.
Well, at least, but we're not doing anything else. I guess it's okay.
He lets Data and Worf beam over because I guess it's never bad to do history. Fine. You don't want to waste everyone's time. On board, they find atmosphere, and it's powered by an old school solar generator and has a lot of frozen people. Most of them have dead bodies inside, but 3 of the pods have entirely preserved people.
Cool. That means we get, they're still preserved, so, they're fresh, and, take them down to the galley, and, right?
Yeah. Just have to warm them up in the reheater.
Yes.
So Picard returns and wants to get underway as soon as humanly possible, so they have to make a really quick decision. Data suggests that they beam the people on board, because he doesn't want to just leave the historical people here.
Indeed.
Picard calls a staff meeting. There's been 2 Federation outposts along the neutral zone that have been destroyed. It is assumed by the Romulans. They've had almost no contact for 45 years, so a sudden show of force like this is not good.
Yeah, this is starting to remind me of a classic TNG episode, some sort of balanced terror or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just going along.
Things are getting destroyed.
Yeah, taking one outpost out after another. They're repeating history, clearly.
Yeah. If Kirk hadn't been there, it would have shown weakness, and the Federation would have fallen to the Romulan Empire.
Mm-hmm.
All that jazz.
What if he was there, but wasn't in charge? What then?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So their assignment is to go to the neutral zone and poke around. Hopefully draw the Romulans out and talk to them.
Poke.
Don't fight unless you really have to.
Poke.
We don't want to start a war here.
Poke.
In sickbay, Crushers decided that the only thing to do with 3 people they brought on board is thaw them out and see what happens. This is the first Picard's hearing about it. It's like, what's going on? Why are there pod people? Data, what did you do?
Oh, I just found some humans. They're floating in space inside the cryogenic chambers, and, might as well, right? It's just what you do.
So they discover that all the people were frozen immediately after they died, and they died from what are now pretty minor medical problems.
Like horrible brain hemorrhages and heart disease.
Yeah. Everyday random stuff. No biggie. This was a fad.
Go ahead.
This was a fad from the 20th century called cryonics. The idea being that you freeze people, and then at some point in the future, they could be unfrizzed and repaired.
So I guess they foresaw that civilization would push forward, and they would have cures for these, horrible things that kill you very quickly or very slowly, painfully.
Yeah, and because of all the other stuff that happened in between then and now, this is the only 3 people in the entirety of human history that's actually worked on.
Hooray! Wait. Well, I guess there was Khan and his crew, but that was not so much trying to avoid death of the disease kind, but trying to not be exterminated as, people trying to, kick them off the Earth.
Yeah. So we get a quick rundown of the 3 podsickles. We have Claire, who's a homemaker who died suddenly of an embolism.
Yes.
She wakes up and sees Worf and immediately passes out.
Yeah, is it because he's an alien?
Probably, yeah.
I kind of hope so, because otherwise, implications is kind of awful.
Yeah, I guess you never know people from that century.
Yes. Dang, 21st century people being awful. Wish they'd stop that.
There's Ralph, who's a financier. No one's completely sure what that is, but he did something.
Finance. Maybe the Fring you know what this guy's about. Let's give them a call.
And Sonny, who's some sort of music guy. Probably died of a massive chemical abuse.
Yes, he drank himself to death and was probably on meth or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he must have really hated life to have lived like that.
Yeah, and apparently all the music about fast cars and hard living have come to an end by this point in time. So I guess that's why he's back to bring those sorts of music genres back in order to encourage people to drink more, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a pretty good thing going here since culture stalled out in the late 80s and then suddenly restarted again about 10 years before this episode.
Yes. There was the small 60s throwback period a century ago, but
So Picard puts Riker and Data in charge of keeping these 3 company and out of the way while they deal with the Romulans.
And they'll fail at that.
Yeah. The 3 are gathered together and told what's happening. It's been about 400 years since they were frozen. Sonny's having a good time because he's just a down-home country boy and is amicably confused by everything.
Oh, golly gee, I'm in the future. Neat.
Yeah.
Where's the martinis?
Claire has no idea what's going on because she didn't want to be frozen. Her husband probably did it. And she had no idea it was going to happen. And Ralph is incredibly happy because he knew it was going to work. He always knew it was going to work. And I need to check on the massive fortune that has definitely accrued with interest and stuff in the last 400 years.
Yes. Just let me talk to my bank and stockbroker and all those sorts of people. Clearly, there's not been a massive societal change between point A and point B here, right?
This guy, more than anybody else, confuses the bejesus out of the crew because they're like, this guy keeps talking about banks and stocks and weird stuff that we have no cultural context for.
Do you want to see the phaser banks? What's going on?
So that's all of them. Sonny gets bored because apparently TV stopped being a thing in the mid 2040s, and they don't really have much in the way of entertainment anymore. Yeah, humans stopped needing to be entertained sometime in the 2040s.
So I guess we have that to look forward to. But how about we just toss these people onto the holodeck and just just have at it for a few hours? We recreated a familiar bit of territory. So live it up until we take you somewhere that's going to be able to take care of you.
Yeah, you think that could keep him out of the way for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Ralph really wants to see his money and the captain because he's got money. He doesn't like being treated this way because money. He's sort of got a money thing going.
I want to see the manager.
Yeah, and Claire is still confused.
Oh,
so there's that.
Why am I here? My damn husband. What? The doors move.
So we step away from the comic relief for a minute. Get a reminder there's another plot happening. They can assume any Federation outpost near the neutral zone may have been destroyed, and that the Romulans are trying to draw out a confrontation with the Federation. If that is the case, they should be ready to take initiative and probably not be taken off guard.
Indeed. So, stiff upper lip and be ready to shoot things if need be, but don't be shooting unless we really need to.
Before they can all finish, Ralph has worked out how to work the con panel and calls Picard, who's annoyed, very annoyed that this dude is interrupting meetings with the ship's communications.
Yes. Could you please not poke the buttons? Control yourself, man. Come on.
Picard heads down to be angry. Ralph demands a phone. Talk to his lawyer about money. Picard tries to be patient and explain that he has no idea what he is talking about. We don't have lawyers. We don't have money. These words mean nothing.
Well, they do have lawyers in the future, but, not probably the kind of lawyer this guy had. And so it's sort of like, you're not in legal trouble. What?
Yeah. Like, there's no such thing as want or need. Money's not a thing. Like, shut up.
So,
Ralph's angry, but everyone's somewhat distracted when Claire starts to cry because everyone she knew is dead.
Well, it's bound to hit her eventually, but, still kind of like a holy crap moment here.
Picard calls in Troy because someone is crying, and she's the one who deals with people who are crying.
And he's already kind of done with this here, so...
She's able to talk Claire down a bit. She helps her look up records of her family so you can see what happens after she died. Sonny tries to get some drugs from Crusher, but... That's it, basically. He wants drugs. And then Data gets him a guitar.
Sonny, if you'd looked into the database of the replicator, you could probably just replicate some stuff you'd really like,
Probably, yeah. This is the future. They have future drugs.
Yes. So what you're saying is I can take this and trip out, and it's guaranteed to end after exactly 3 hours. So I could schedule this perfectly, so I'm always tripping out, man.
They finally arrive at the neutral zone. The outpost they were going to wasn't attacked or destroyed. It was scooped out of the Earth itself.
Oh no, someone stole our outpost.
They head off to check the next one, and Ralph storms onto the bridge.
Dang it, Ralph. Why are you here?
So they find the next outpost, etc. It's also been scooped out of the Earth. Riker advocates for going to battle stations. Picard doesn't want to escalate, etc.
Someone's stealing our outposts.
Some of these things don't actually pay off for a while. They show the scene and then there's no payoff for ages.
Yes. Like this whole mystery about the scooping of the outposts as well, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm. Worf detects a disturbance, a large one.
Is it in the Force?
Yes. The Romulans may have started using a cloaking device and are following them.
Well, we gotta maybe keep an eye out for that.
They start decloaking, which is oh my god. Riker and Worf want to take them out while they're vulnerable, but Picard wants to talk. Turns out the Romulans were fainting, and no ship actually appears. They probably just wanted to see if they were going to attack them.
Well, I guess they know either that the Enterprise was not going to attack them, or the Enterprise couldn't detect them, phasing in and out a little bit there. But which one?
So this time they appear for real. It's massive. They have a massive ship that's larger than the Enterprise.
Indeed, at
the
least twice
biggest
as
ship
big.
in the Federation.
Yeah, the Romulan ships are sort of like two plates and a front bit, and they have connecting things and the cells and all that there. And each one of those two plate bits is the size of the Enterprise itself.
This is when Ralph has figured out the turbo lift enough to show up, I guess.
Ralph, what are you doing here?
He stormed off to the bridge 20 minutes ago and now has just gotten here.
Well,
he's immediately grabbed by security, though.
Well, the turbo lifts, there might be like a priority system, like the captain always gets, high priorities, random passengers, and, cryogenically frozen people, are lowest priority. So the turbo lift is going around picking up and dropping off a bunch of officers until finally he's in the queue for the bridge.
So they hail the Romulans. 2 Romulans appear on the view screen. Tebok, who's Proto-Dukat. Ty, who talks in weird robot voice for some reason.
Yes, I think he's trying to be intimidating, but I don't think the Romulans know how to intimidate humans right now.
They're here because their outposts in the neutral zone were scooped out of the ground by a weird force, and we want to know what's up.
Well, scooping out of the ground, maybe we should look for some sort of large space entity with a big ice cream scoop.
Picard asks if they think that the Federation attacked them, but they know that the Federation isn't capable of that because they're weaklings and they wouldn't be able to do something like this.
Or at least they hope so.
Ralph goes like, I've been in negotiations. These guys don't know what they're talking about. They just hope you know what's going on. The guy's like, yeah. Idiot. Of course. What are you to shut up?
So I guess we that's information for the audience if they're not paying attention at all. But, Picard's like, I know what's going on. You go away.
Yeah. Picard diplomatically suggests that they just share what they learn about all of this and try to figure out what's happening. Tebok agrees and then goes, but know this, the Romulans are back. All right, that's dealt with. Romulan situation done. That was easy.
Yes.
Now they've got the podsicles. Got to deal with them.
So what are we going to do with them? We're going to toss Ralph into the brig for breaking onto the bridge without permission?
They should, yeah. But so Claire gets to look up her great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson when she gets back to Earth, so she's happy. Family stuff, I suppose. That'll be interesting for everyone.
Yeah,
the most awkward of Thanksgivings.
Yeah, maybe we should at some point drop by these folks and see how they're adjusting to this new century. Are we going to?
Ralph's... No.
Oh.
It'd be interesting, but no. Ralph is still upset that there's no money, but maybe he'll try this bettering himself thing everyone keeps talking about.
Yeah.
And Sonny's just happy to be here because he's been pretty amicable.
Yeah, it's like cool future stuff, and there's booze. I'm sold.
Yeah, they've been collecting people from this century. They could go talk to Whale Lady.
Yep. Well, she's probably a little up in years now, but yeah.
Yeah, but she's been around a while. She had to make this. She had to figure this out.
Gonna have a support group somewhere on Earth. For, all right. What century are you from? Well, I'm from the 20th century. Oh, I'm from the 21st. Cool. We probably have a lot in common. Yeah. Do you remember when we had to start dodging the ICBMs? No, I missed that. Oh, lucky.
So they talk about how it would be how they could be nice and drop the 3 off at a starbase in a few days, which would take a few months off of their trip back to Earth. But Picard's like, nope, we're just going to give them the months, give them some time to acclimate. We have to move on. Season 2 is coming.
We have to be ready for it. Also, we're going to be dropping people off that are going to Earth anyway. But never mind.
Yeah. Don't think about it.
Yes. Yeah, Season 2 is coming. Look forward to that, everybody.
That's it. We did it. We did Season 1.
Season 1! Holy smokes!
So what did we think? What did we think of the neutral zone?
As I said before, it's a passable episode, kind of disjointed in bits here, but, there's some stuff going on. And I guess, to a degree, the menace of the episode is kind of low-key enough that it not being very resolved at all is okay. It's like,
so would you call it a neutral episode?
Yes. Especially in the in season 1 here, it's probably one of the better ones. So hooray!
Yeah, I do think it's one of the better season 1 episodes. And yeah, they don't really resolve anything. It's basically just it's supposed to introduce two villains, and it introduces one villain and then hints that there's something else going on, but in such a low-key way you will have completely forgotten that it's happening by the time they pay this off in any capacity.
Indeed. It'll be sort of a, oh yeah, there's that one thing happened, and I only noticed this because we're watching some reruns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when I was growing up, I didn't even notice at all until I was like, in my 20s. So it was like, wait a moment.
I didn't even remember these were connected in any way.
Yes. But,
Of course, this is fairly obvious from all the stuff that's going on. The original intention was for this to be a 2-part episode. This would basically be the first part. The Romulans show up and they need to collaborate to figure out what's going on with their disappearing outposts.
Mm-hmm.
The next episode, the Borg would show up, and
Indeed.
the Romulans and the Federation have to work together to try to take out this new, even more powerful enemy.
Mm-hmm. And, we'd have these guys that are maybe not so trusting of us, but they got a pretty big and powerful ship, and maybe they got others hanging out. And we got the Enterprise, of course, doing its, Enterprise best. And so, maybe we'll, this hive mind entities that we're sort of dealing with here, maybe we can use its singular thinking as a disadvantage by having two groups of folks with very different thinking that it can adapt to if they're both trying their various thingamajigs on them at the same time. That'd be kind of
it pretty
interesting.
much writes itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the Federation would want to try to talk to them. The Romulans would want to be hostile. They'd work on Federation rules for a second. The Romulans would try to attack them. They'd probably either destroy or heavily disable the Romulan ship, which we know is more powerful than the Enterprise, thus showing how powerful the Borg are as an enemy. We would have had to have Taybach probably come onto the Enterprise to try to start pushing people around, and then they would have worked together on a combined strategy that uses both of their individual strengths to combat the one singular strength.
Exactly. So yeah, that would have been a pretty cool thing going on there. But, real world stuff happens.
Yeah, you should pay your writers. Then this doesn't happen.
Exactly. If you're not paying your writers, they will eventually want to get actually paid, and they might strike about it. So pay them. As someone who sometimes does writing for pay your writers. That's how we live.
The part of this episode that is kind of more fanficky is actually pretty good. The bits that they cred from that being a lot of the modern person insert stuff, as fanfic does.
Yes. Some sort of Mary Sue sort of thing, but in this case, it's not nearly as powerful or anything silly like that. Self-insert though.
I feel like if they'd not wanted to still introduce the other stuff, once they knew. Of course, this episode was written in like a day and a half from a basic framework, so of course it wasn't going to be the best script ever.
Yeah.
But also they couldn't make any amendments to the script because they filmed it while the writer's strike was happening, so writing on it would have been against guild rules.
Yes.
Even to fix things.
So just kind of make it work, and we'll cut anything that doesn't work in editing, hopefully.
But it's kind of unfortunate because each of these individually is an interesting premise, but shoving them both into one episode has kind of robbed each of the interesting thing you could do.
The
Romulans had to show up for 5 minutes. They apparently wanted to have the financier's business savvy lets him see through the Romulan deception, but he does it in such an obviously stupid way it doesn't work for anything.
Yes. It's like, dude, people have not become brain dead in the last few centuries. The people that are experienced with dealing with potentially hostile aliens have some intuitions as well. Come on.
But it is unfortunate that we don't get anything like this explored more, because this is a very good opportunity for them to be able to flesh out the parts of the next generation world that we don't really get to see as much of.
Indeed. In fact, I kind of wish that this episode was a lot earlier this season, so that we could sort of get more of the world of the Enterprise here, before we get too distracted by various plots here and there, so that we can.
They definitely wouldn't have had stuff worked out as well by then.
True.
Because they had no idea what was going on earlier in the first season.
But, if they had known what they were doing and this episode could have been earlier in time, that would have been great. But, or something similar to this. A true, fish out of water, let's introduce the viewership to the strange world of this far future universe here. And, what things are still things, which things are not. And sort of, if we want to make a sell for the Roddenberry future, let's actually show us what it is, Yeah,
you have a really good chance to juxtapose some stuff. It's like the creative dude seems to be just as welcome and integrated into society as ever, so we can assume that they value, creativity and artists.
Mm-hmm.
The finance dude is completely unwelcome and doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So we've established that they don't need money. We still don't know anything about that other than money doesn't exist in some sort of nebulous way.
Yes. As we explore the universe more, it kind of becomes clear that that's more of a core World Federation thing. But if you're like, say, a Trill, you might be living on a random planet that maybe have some loose connection with Earth, but isn't necessarily a Federation world, and you still have money to worry about, unless you can get involved in a weird murder plot involving the Orion Syndicate by accident.
Yeah, that's just because, especially in Deep Space Nine, because I think they didn't actually work out how the economic and social underpinnings of this universe really function in any coherent way.
Mm-hmm.
The writers didn't know what to do with any of it and just sort of fell back on what they knew, which was writing modern stories with modern problems, just putting them on spaceships.
Yes.
Instead of writing anything that was examining how the world in which these people live impact the people who live there.
Really exploring the speculative nature of the speculative fiction. But
Well, you've really got there's two primary ways to write speculative fiction and sci-fi, which is either the people have remained basically the same and the technology has changed significantly, or the people have changed significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And in the one, you're still writing modern humans, but you're writing modern humans as affected by usually one fairly large, significant change. And you're using that to explore how people would interact with this specific alteration to the status quo.
Indeed. In fact, I have a manuscript I'm trying to get published that's sort of along those lines. The big change being, what if there were people on Europa?
So something like that is that's more your DS9 era of stuff, actually. Like, people still worry about money. There's still a lot of understandable political machinations happening. You have very recognizable family dynamics and social interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And most of your time is spent going like, well, what if these recognizably modern people had to interact with this other thing that's going on?
Yes.
A lot of the stuff that they were trying to do in TNG to better and worse effect, depending on the episode, is the other type where humanity has changed significantly in culture and standing in the universe. And a lot of the thing is exploring what that is and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people who live in this era are recognizably human in a way that lets you empathize with them, but their day-to-day lives and concerns and social interactions have changed so significantly from anything that you have that using them as a point of understandable reference just doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah.
Which is why you can, to explain stuff, introduce something like you have here, where someone from our century shows up. A recognizably modern human with modern concerns now suddenly has to interact with this changed world, and you can explore what that does to someone and use it as a way to explain and juxtapose, modern society with your new whatever it is society.
Indeed. Effectively, they become the audience viewpoint characters for the episode, or your blank slate hero.
Yeah. Or you could actually do something interesting. No one ever does, but you could do, how is this person affected psychologically by suddenly being dumped into a world that is, for all intents and purposes, vastly better than the one they left.
Yes.
But is so separated from their normal day-to-day points of reference that they might hate it.
Or they might, express hate towards it, but really they're just stressed out because they don't understand it. But either way.
I mean, you do have a little bit of that, and it's interestingly portrayed as a freak out, a finance dude, because his entire life's purpose was framed around something that has become completely irrelevant
Indeed.
after he died. And now the thing that he spent literally his entire life trying to achieve is no longer useful to anyone for any reason.
Well, I guess you can do math at least. Yeah, I kind of, in some ways, wish that, have Ralph be the very explicit, I'm now going to be rejecting this world because, I'm now being sort of made obsolete. But you could have Claire be the one that's not just kind of mopey and sad here, but, is like, okay, I'm, kind of sad for a little bit, talk to Troy, I feel a little bit better. And then she gets real angry because, there's so much stuff going on here that she's just not being able to process it and getting frustrated. And so, it's not just, angry, sad, chill, I guess. It'd be more of a, evolving these characters through their sort of adjustments in this new world.
Yeah, and then of course your artists, they're just, he's basically stoned the whole time, so
yes,
doesn't matter.
Though in his case, it might be a thing where his evolution into this situation is that he's starts off chill, but someone else kind of points out, he's just really drunk all the time now, and he might be in denial about some stuff, but we'll keep an eye on him. And so it's more of a subtle reveal about how he's sort of processing things.
Well, there's an Asimov short story about time travel that is mostly a setup for a kind of stupid joke. But one of the things that they have is the person who's explaining the time travel thing, which is they can bring people from the past into the current century with their time traveling stuff, and that lets them learn about the past. They discovered that, they tried bringing normal great minds. They tried bringing scientists and philosophers and people who they thought they could learn a lot from. And they just spent the entire time freaking the hell out because they needed to explain what was going on. So then they started bringing artists, and the artists were just like, oh, well, cool.
Yeah, this is kind of far out, man. But you're a Renaissance painter. I know, right?
Then, of course, the entire thing is a joke set up for how the English teacher that the guy's talking to flunked Shakespeare out of his Shakespeare class.
Oops. I like that. I guess it also depends on when they're scooping them out. And speaking of scooping, maybe that's what happened to those colonies.
Yeah, maybe that's why he flunked the class. He's like, what do you mean lost play?
It's working on it. Uh-oh. You're not going to send me back, are you? So, should we talk about the Cold War?
Yeah, it was. They froze people and then threw them at each other.
Yes.
Warlike way.
The very cold War. Chill out, everyone. It is time to send our soldiers over to the enemy. They're frozen, sir. I know. That's why it's going to hurt the enemy more.
Yes, Mr. Freeze showed up. Everyone needs to chill.
But yeah, I guess we've talked a bit about Cold War generally off and on here. in various contexts here. But as you pointed out, things are kind of, winding down on that front. So there's sort of a, I guess we could, always look at the timeline of things in terms of, when exactly this episode came out and, how many weeks it would be yet until such and such event happened. But I guess the big things, didn't really start happening, cascading, I suppose, until the next year in '89. But there's sort of still a little bit of writing on the wall sort of stuff going on, even when this episode came out, that maybe things were kind of in the waning eras here. So there's some rebellions going on in Eastern Europe the year before, and a couple years back even further, it's a Chernobyl disaster, and it's like maybe they're not so prepared for some things here in the Soviet Union. And, there's a lot of sort of speculation, I guess, at this point that, there's maybe something is about to happen, man. Also, there's that whole reunification of Germany thing coming up. We should maybe keep an eye out for that. But things hadn't quite gotten to the full cascade of, dismantling the Soviet Union and all that. But there was, I guess, other things kind of happening in sort of the 80s that was, of significance here. That is actually, in a weird way, reminiscent of some of the stuff going on here with the Romulans. We'll cooperate, kind of, on this one thing sort of deal. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't remember the 80s.
All right. Well, other than, trying to reduce nuclear stockpiles, there was a chat about setting up some sort of, I don't know, space station, international space station, maybe. The U.S. and the Russians have done the space race stuff. They both set up, various, stations, mostly on the temporary basis. Like American Skylab, Mir, and all that on the Soviet Union side. It's like, well, maybe we should, I don't know, for, the cause of peace and, cooperation and shared scientific and, endeavors, maybe we should, come together and do a space station together, man.
So the space travel thing is the spirit of cooperation that didn't need a massive outsized enemy.
Indeed. So instead of worrying about scooping colonies here, it's like, maybe science, the pursuit of science sake, is its own reward. So perhaps we should, I don't know, work together a little bit and do some cool stuff here. Yeah, the early sort of, I guess, talks about this sort of stuff started kicking off in the in the 80s with sort of a, wouldn't it be nice sort of stuff here. But I guess the real plans didn't really start coming up until the actually early 90s. Just after the fall of the Soviet Union, we got a situation where, the Russian Federation's like, we're kind of still here, I guess. We're in bad shape. But, sure, we'll do some space stuff. We were kind of talking about it before that whole, our country fell apart bit. But, we'll start doing some cooperation, and because we're sort of in a transition out of the Cold War now. So, sure, we'll set up a little bit of a treaty, I guess, and start putting things together. And, so Vice President Al Gore met with the Prime Minister of Russia, and they're like, yeah, let's do this. And so there's also some shuttle docking with Mir sort of stuff to sort of symbolize the new era beginning. And, in time, we started putting up pieces of space station. Some from Russia, some from the U.S., some from other folks like Japan and European Space Agency and all that. And so, eventually we got ourselves the ISS, and it's still up and will be up for a while yet. And it's already done 100,000 orbits or so.
It is starting to fall apart a bit.
Yes.
It's leaking. There's...
there's plans for retirement at this point, but personally, I'd love them to fix some of the leaks and put them in higher orbit. But even if just a skeleton crew for a while until we can get better launch capabilities, or just send it up into geostationary so it's not going to easily fall out due to atmospheric drag. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Have it be a long-lasting potential stopover for future explorations of the solar system.
Yeah, let's go keep replacing parts. I mean, it's already up there.
Yes. It's easier to replace parts than it is to put up new modules, though. Maybe a few more modules in time would be kind of cool. But yeah, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about this because, it's sure, the spirit of cooperation that's sort of kind of maybe shown in this episode is very limited in a very sort of way, but it did kind of remind me of this, and I want to talk about the ISS for a while, so... But I remember watching the first link up of the first two modules there. I was Zarev, I forget the exact name of it, and some U.S. module probably called Freedom. It's like, all right, cool, we got two pieces together, hooray! And now we got a whole lot more, and big, I guess. Scaffolding with all the big solar panels on it, and it's been going strong for years and years now, and I think it's kind of an amazing achievement that folks don't necessarily think about every day, but it's sort of one of those things that's pops up in the back of my mind. It's like, this is really awesome that we've been able to do this as a planet here.
I think it's kind of interesting, especially given things were winding down. There was at least some amount of the spirit of cooperation starting up, even though the Soviet Union was about to collapse in on itself through mismanagement and fascist tendencies.
Yes.
That both times they've shown something akin to that happening in Star Trek. We had, undiscovered country with the end of the Klingon War, and we have what the intention for this, but they also keep working on and off with the Romulans. The Romulans never get into full antagonist status. They're always just sort of a untrustworthy side nation.
Yes, they're playing chess, as Picard sort of characterizes them later.
Yeah, and they work with them not infrequently on various joint things. And they always have something else happening in order to make it feasible. Like, undiscovered country had their home, like the Klingon homeworld was going to become uninhabitable, so of course they have to cooperate now.
Yes.
This episode was going to have a massively more powerful force come in that would force cooperation. I think that it's kind of interesting that even a lot of sci-fi writers, I think probably because diplomacy is boring for TV.
A bit, yeah.
They don't really express much trust or interest in the idea that people would be able to coordinate for themselves how to get along with each other. Like, something else has to come in. A massive alien force that threatens the entire world has to arrive before everyone's going to start cooperating.
Which is an unfortunate trope, because that isn't actually needed in reality. Sometimes people
also
can't just get along. Yeah. And also sometimes in history there's this overwhelming massive force coming in, and people are like, well, maybe if I can get them to attack my enemy first.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. I think like one of the few times something like that actually happened where there's sort of a massive a combined force is, of course, World War II, the Soviet Union and the Western powers, kind of ganging up on the axis there after Soviet Union, trying to stay out of it, but, eventually got betrayed. But also the Mongol invasion of Europe. It's like, we're getting our butts kicked up, 7 ways from Sunday, but maybe we can build a coalition. Well, to really be able to defeat them, we're going to need everybody. You mean those people down in Turkey that are beating up the Byzantines? Yep, those folks too. But they're not Christians. So they're getting their asses handed to them too. All right, I guess we'll team up for a little bit, I guess, sort of. But only to kill people, all right? Okay.
Yeah, and all those times that Persia invaded and all the Greeks stopped squabbling with each other long enough to pull off a Thermopylae.
Yes. So you might notice that all of these sort of things are about conflicts and war and people dying and, but what if we want to do something other than, beat up people?
Well, the thing to remember, especially with that, is prior to World War One, 90% of world politics was small inter-family wars between ruling families in Europe.
Indeed. Or, the pastime of Europe. If someone insults your uncle, well, it's time to go and beat up on them and their cousin.
Like, while the whole war to end all war things, of course, didn't pan out, it did upset the balance of power in Europe to the point that did stop. Mm-hmm. We tend to not have a bunch of teeny tiny little wars between European countries vying for territory all the damn time now.
Indeed. It's there's less, I need this bit of territory in order to have my trade come through here without having to go through your tax booth there, and I'm going to go beat up your people, and I'll use the excuse that you insulted my sister by divorcing my cousin or something. So let's go fight, and I'll take this territory, or you'll siege my castle for a while. Either way, I still got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't important to the thing, but that was the inciting thing of World War One. All these weird little wars that kept happening. Mm-hmm. Basically, every country in Europe had a mutual protection pact with every other country in Europe. So the second anyone touched off anything, everyone had to do everything.
Yeah. So we got an alliance, we got an entente, and some of our friends are fighting, and so we got to go and help them out because that's how we roll in Europe here. Whoops, this was awful. So I guess the lesson of the neutral zone is don't engage in nobility politics in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it is interesting this is a enlightened Cold War analogy when we get to TNG. Mm-hmm. They want to avoid war because they believe in avoiding war, yes. Not because they believe in mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, war sucks. Let's not do it if we can.
As we go through, we're going to get more interesting stuff because we're going to have parallels with some of the old show things. Because now you're not doing any of the Cold War stuff. They're not having proxy wars like they did with the Klingons. They are doing weird behind-the-scenes political machinations, pulling off spy stuff, like all things like that we imagined was happening during the Cold War. But
like turning Geordi into a secret agent to murder somebody in order to break up an alliance, stuff like that.
So it's going to be interesting to go forward because this is after this season, the Soviet Union kind of breaks up and then we're no longer writing Cold War stories, but they still have set up a lot of Cold War dynamics. So now we're going to have post-Cold War stories.
Yes. So we'll kind of keep an eye on how those sort of evolve as things go forward. And, the question is then, what is Tulmaluk really doing in all good things with yes, we're going to send in our ship to investigate this anomaly too, and they just never show up. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, they probably just blew up or something.
Explain why that's the last time he appears. That would have been interesting.
Because it's the end of the series.
Well, yeah. They could have had him come back in DS9 or something like that, but unfortunately, Andreas Kasolus has passed away, so.
But, that's all far future stuff, so... Mm-hmm. For right now, I think it's time for the Galaxy's favorite game show! Woo!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Galaxy's favorite game show on this last episode for Season 1 of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Our various contestants have been racking up points here, and so it's time to hand out some prizes. We got 3 of them to hand out, and so let's get started. The first one is the Cold War Strategy Prize, which goes to the Romulans for being difficult about a mutual concern issue, but then agreeing to maybe cooperate on it, sorta, kind of, but on nothing else. Only this, man. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win some sensors or relays. What are these outposts for? If the only thing that anyone ever noticed about the outposts is they stop being there.
They're just giant transponders, Gepwin. Don't think about it too much. Our second prize is the Fricycle Prize, which goes to Sonny, Claire, and Ralph for their successful trip into the future via cryonics. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win a fun life of leisure because at this point, they are going to have to do so much college to catch up. I think that the best thing for them to do is go retire on a beach and enjoy that no one needs money anymore.
Indeed, though Claire might want to get back to that engineering job of hers, that homemaker, right? Ho-ho! Our final prize is the Menacing Geometry Prize, which goes to you-know-who is not appearing in this episode. What does this Mystery Force win, Gepwin?
They win some more Tinker Toys. We never find out what they're doing with all these outposts and cities and stuff that they're, scooping out of the Earth. So I think they're just making giant space Lego sets.
That'd be kind of awesome, actually. I hope we run into one of those at some point. But that's all I got here for Gepwin. So feel free to take us away into the future, the far future, where we wake up from never mind.
Thanks to our podsicles and our mysterious unseen forces for joining us on the Galaxy's favorite game show. Woo! And that rounds out a season.
Yes, we got through it. Holy smokes. We got a whole season.
Yeah, season 1 was a bit of a mess, ups and downs, but I think overall I end positively, and everyone agreed because they thought it was going to get canceled, and instead it did not. So,
hooray!
Seems to work out.
Yeah, it was good enough to continue and to spawn more Star Trek.
It wasn't just good; it was good enough.
It was good enough to continue. It was good enough to eventually start spawning more Star Trek. And then more Star Trek, and then eventually everything on TV will be Star Trek.
Yeah, though only on the one streaming channel.
Oh, yes. So, if you don't have that one, you're SOL in terms of, Star Trek.
Yeah, the Star Trek streaming channel that I assume does other things sometimes.
Indeed. So, are we ever going to see Sonny and Ralph and Claire again, I think? I don't think so, but maybe we can sort of appreciate them for the time they spent with us and think about how they slowly adapt to this new century. And how
there's only two options. They are 100% going to show up either in the final season of Picard or in Lower Decks. So that's just going to happen.
That's actually a good point. I think I'd like to have Ralph show up in Lower Decks, Claire to show up Picard, and Sonny actually to show up in Discovery, because he got himself so drunk he decided, well, I got liver damage again, and I'm gonna die again. I'm gonna get myself frozen again. Whee!
I am definitely surprised that Sonny has not just showed up as a background joke of them listening to some music or something on Lower Decks yet.
That would kind of make sense, actually. Hey, if you're listening to us Lower Decks folks, go ahead and do that. You don't even have to have them talk. Just characters playing some music. So,
as is tradition, now we're going to take a little break between seasons, and we are going to do a movie.
A movie?
An entire movie. It's like an episode of Star Trek, but twice as long.
Yes, and sometimes even longer.
Yeah, nowadays. I'm so tired.
Well, we spent all our time watching things. We can't do anything else. Oh, God. Yeah. But we
So,
got a treat coming up here, though.
yeah. So we decide to give our brains a break, and we have someone else on to decide what they're going to watch.
Yes. And,
So I don't have to decide anything.
Yes. No, neither do I, actually. Because if I had to decide things, it's like, do I want to like throw more Doctor Who at Gepwin, or do I want to like do something really weird instead?
So next week we are going to be joined by a amazing YouTuber who does some really fun video essays. I say fun, some of them are depressing, but she is very fun doing the video essays.
Oh, that's how video essays really should be done. A fun host who sometimes covers depressing things.
Yes. So she is a great YouTuber called Hoots.
Hoots.
And we'll have links somewhere. You should go check out her YouTube. I would recommend the Mummy trilogy that she did about the Mummy 1999 because I just think that's fun. She's also done some more recent stuff that you can see, and is currently going to have something about New York coming out soon, which I will find interesting.
New York.
So anyway, yeah, you should go check out her channel. And she has decided that the next thing we're going to watch is the most modern thing we've ever done in the Jordan Peele sci-fi western, neo-western horror movie called Nope.
Why'd you just go Nope? What's the name of the movie?
Yeah, we're not going to watch it. Nope.
Oh, it's too scary.
Yeah, it's too scary.
Alternatively, we could have done a like who's on first thing just now, but with only one movie, we can't figure out who's on second base.
Well.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with Jordan Peele's work, I would assume you know this, but this, I think, more than a lot of things that we cover, I would definitely recommend trying to watch before we do the episode. Not only because the twist is good, like it's not as dependent on not knowing what happens as some of his other stuff. Like, I would never say that ruins the thing, but not going in cold is really good for most of his movies.
Yes.
This one I wouldn't say is as dependent on that, but definitely you should see it because it's just filled with so much nuance and visual interest and other things that is just not going to come through in a synopsis at all.
Yes. So it's an event to be taken in, to be perceived, to be digested. Let your brain work down and take it apart and be integrated into your subconscious so that when you see it a third time, you're still like, whoa.
Yeah, I just learned this. The cinematographer on this movie literally invented new ways of filming things that had never been done before.
Nice.
For this movie. So, like, visually, you need to just see it with your eyeballs.
So, get your eyes on it, folks. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it now.
So, yes, next time you can join us and Hoots for the most modern thing we've ever done, which is the sci-fi, western horror, etc., etc., etc. Nope.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Hoots joins us back at the ranch where it's raining blood! You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you that is now no longer exists.